Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Yep. Can you hear me, everybody? Yes, you can. We have 20 minutes of airtime. So it's going to be a monologue for 20 minutes, hopefully a dialogue after that. I'm responsible for data center hosting and cloud computing at Etisalat from a product management perspective. Now, we are going to discuss an emerging business model globally, which is gaining rapid traction among the SME community based on certain value propositions. And these are the value propositions which we are going to see now, which are typically applicable to SMEs in the region, in UAE, in the region, and globally. Before that, we all understand, we all acknowledge, IT is business. How does a typical SME typically run IT within their setup? Does this resonate with SME owners, SME business owners, right? So you have a number of applications delivering business value, running on silos, running on different servers, physical servers, on which you expend a lot of capital investment. And capital conservation is one of the biggest challenges of SMEs, and we just heard about this a couple of minutes back. Right? So this is how a typical SME IT setup looks like. And suddenly, the SME grows, and the servers suddenly balloon into a full-fledged, complex IT network architecture. And the question arises, is the SME managing IT or is it managing business? Do you want to be managing IT? Do you want to be managing this? And it's not only about managing, it's also about the capital locked up in all the IT setup. Let's go back. Right? There has to be a simpler solution to this. A simpler solution where there's no capital lockup, right? There's no investment, there's low operational cost, and there's no lock-in. When you are spending capital on buying IT infrastructure, you're getting locked into physical hardware, which is delivering business value, no doubt, but it's the same business value that you can derive without all these disadvantages. And how does that happen? Sorry about being slightly technical on this, but instead of the servers, instead of the IT infrastructure which you saw, the complex IT network room with all the equipment that you saw, there is no need to buy any of this stuff. All you need to do is to have a service provider own the IT setup, and this is the IT setup. So your entire IT infrastructure in that slide is replaced by this setup with no ownership, owned by a service provider, whereby you subscribe, an SME business subscribes to virtual servers as opposed to the physical servers which we saw on the earlier slide, delivering the same business value, running the same applications. The applications could be anything. It could be email, it could be CRM, it could be business intelligence, it could be analytics. Any application running on virtual servers with no ownership of IT, with no capital lockup, and with capital conservation, and to top it all, cost savings. This precisely is the business model which I referred to in my initial slide. In addition to that, there is no need, as the business grows, there is no need to transform those few 4 or 5 servers into a full-fledged IT network setup. Even if the business grows, this compute capacity which runs all your applications scales up without ownership. So all you need to do is subscribe to servers as opposed to buying physical servers and run the same applications for your business. So the schematic is basically representative of the fact that you scale up your compute capacity. If you see the color combinations changing, you scale up your compute capacity without spending any capital investment. And the ownership of the IT setup remains with the service provider. This precisely is the business model we talked about. It's Etisalat Cloud Compute. which is Etisalat's Infrastructure as a Service. Infrastructure as a Service, IaaS, is the industry acronym where you subscribe to compute capacity as opposed to buying IT infrastructure, leading to a cost saving of 60%. Typically, it could be more, it could go down less, slightly less, based on situations, based on applications. In addition to that, it's not only the cost savings of 60%, it's also the fact, the 3 points which I mentioned, no lock-in period, capital conservation, and most important of all, which again we saw a couple of minutes back in the startup example, is managing the cash flow, where you have predictable expenses, monthly expenses, to run the same applications, to achieve the same outcome, i.e. to run your business and grow your business. So that's Etisalat Cloud Compute. This is Etisalat's Infrastructure as a Service. It's being globally offered by companies like Amazon Web Services, by Rackspace, by Savis. It was launched officially by Etisalat on 3rd of June, which is a couple of weeks back, and it's already available. It's hosted in Etisalat data centers, and it's pure monthly subscription with no upfront investment, not even 1 dirham. We saw a very catchy heading there, cost savings of up to 60% on your IT setup. Now, this is something which we worked out for an SME in Dubai for a 10-server environment. Typically, an SME of 100 to 125 users uses approximately 15 to 20 applications to run their business. Could be different kinds of applications. Some applications could use more than 1 server, but typically that's the range. So we calculated this for a 10-server environment with certain number of RAM and hard disk and network, etc., which all amounts to compute capacity. Now these figures are actual figures based on the quote that this prospect, now of course a client, that this prospect received. Figures are pretty clear. So the total cost estimated based on the actual quote which the client received, the prospect at that time received, was 1.7 million dirham to run his entire IT setup. And we are not even calculating the cost of the server room and the utilities, the power, the cooling, etc., etc. So as opposed to a 1.7 million upfront cost to run, in his specific case, to run all the applications, over a 3-year period, the total monthly cost amounted to 675,000. So that's the total economic impact over 3 years. On a monthly basis, it is much, much less. And this precisely is the cost saving and the capital conservation. And the capital that you conserve, because the 1.7 million is an upfront investment, and you're achieving the same business outcome by spending 675,000 dirham. The capital conserved in an SME is redeployed and reallocated to actual business growth, thereby aiding the SME to grow. Cloud computing. Cloud computing, in reality, there's a plethora of definitions in the marketplace today. You subscribe to Gmail, it's cloud computing. You subscribe to Microsoft Office on the web, it's cloud computing. You subscribe to Salesforce, it's cloud computing. Different definitions, multiple definitions. What we are referring to out here is cloud computing for firms and businesses, not personal cloud. Even Apple App Store, is a cloud. It's a personal cloud. Microsoft SkyDrive, it's a personal cloud where you store your data, where you store your images, where you store your email, etc., etc. The cloud computing we are talking about is infrastructure as a service, which replaces or augments your compute capacity with no capital investment and providing you scalable capacity as and when you need with no lock-in, most significant. Of course, you do have, just for the sake of clarity, you do have 2 other layers of cloud computing, which is software as a service. The examples that I mentioned earlier, Microsoft, Gmail, Salesforce, etc., etc., fall under the category of software as a service, where you subscribe to software, you're not looking at compute capacity. Then you have platform as a service, which is primarily targeted towards the tech community for carrying on test and development activities, where they don't have to buy servers and they don't have to buy technical tools, to develop applications. It's gaining massive traction globally, and it's starting off in this region. The cloud compute that we talked about is infrastructure as a service, providing you subscription-based compute capacity. So that's infrastructure as a service. Now, the reason I included this slide was because cloud computing and data centers are interlinked extremely deeply. Cloud computing is delivered from data centers. It could be globally, regionally. In the UAE, we deliver this service, infrastructure as a service, from one of the Etisalat data centers, which is based in Jebel Ali, and we call it Jebel Ali Data Center. It's a Tier 3 certified data center, assuring our customers who subscribe to this cloud computing, who run their applications on this cloud compute, on Etisalat cloud compute, of certain levels of assurance in terms of reliability and availability, as well as performance. Now, the snake line, not meant to be a sales slide, but it represents the total data center space in square meter of the 9 data centers that Etisalat has. And it's grown rapidly over the last 6 years, over the last 7 years, with plans for further investment already committed in 2014. So that's around 20,000 square meter, 225,000 square feet, immense amount of hosting space. It primarily represents the fact, or rather points to the trend, that organizations in the region are increasingly outsourcing their infrastructure based on the tangible benefits that they have seen. So an increasing proportion of the IT spend of companies is going or channelizing towards infrastructure outsourcing, i.e. hosting their IT setup in data centers. Infrastructure as a service. So this is a survey conducted by Gartner, as close as it gets, February 2013 survey. Not very clear? Yeah, it is clear. If you see out there on top, over the next 5 years, 2011 to 2016, infrastructure as a service, out of the 3 cloud service delivery models that we saw, is projected to grow at the highest growth rate out of all other cloud services put together. So what are the other cloud services that we see out there? Platform as a service, application as a service, cloud advertising, right? It's a huge industry. But the biggest growth rate, again, on the back of tangible benefits that it offers. And this is a tried, as I said before, tried and tested business model, gaining rapid traction in SME community globally. And that's the reason, one of the primary reasons that we introduced this in this region. And all this from Etisalat data centers, so the data, which is one of the primary concerns of businesses and firms, doesn't traverse across the geographical boundaries of UAE. So that's Etisalat cloud compute. In short, subscription to scalable compute capacity, eliminating the need to buy servers and get locked in with all the technology refresh and technical challenges with no capital investment, hosted in Etisalat data centers, Tier 3 certified data centers, and a whole lot of complex infrastructure which caters to security, reliability, and availability features, because at the end of the day, on this entire setup, it's our clients, and there are a number of clients already hosting their applications on this setup in Jebel Ali data center, being assured of certain levels, minimum assured levels of reliability and performance on their business applications, and the whole business is dependent on these applications. So what a service provider does, and it's not only Etisalat, anybody offering cloud infrastructure as a service builds this complex setup to make things simpler for businesses and firms. I mentioned about the data center hosting and the growth of the hosting space and clients coming in. Let me also share another statistic. There are around 1,000 customers as of today, and 80% of those customers we would term as SMBs and SMEs, i.e. minus the large enterprises. And typically the very large enterprises like the Emirates Airlines or let's say Dubai Electric and Water Supply, etc., build their own data center due to various reasons. So out of the 1,000 clients, 80% is all SMBs and SMEs. Cloud infrastructure as a service takes data center hosting on to the next level where you don't have to buy anything. So that's aiding the SME evolution, critical success factors for SME evolution, capital conservation, risk mitigation, you're not getting locked in, and aiding the cash flow. Cloud infrastructure as a service addresses these three key challenges for SMEs, thereby assisting them. That's the end of the presentation, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for your time. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take that.
Outstanding. This is a very, very interesting topic. I'd just like to see, before we move on, who has any questions about the cloud? Is anybody using the cloud now in their organization? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the scalability, about security, about any issues that might be preventing them from moving in?
For one or two server environment also. So when you've got 10 computers and you're looking for one server, or is it just looking for maybe 10 servers out?
This slide answers your question. These are the virtual servers, the entry-level servers. So one, just to reiterate, no upfront cost. The entry-level virtual server that you subscribe to starts at 425 dirham per month with no one-time investment. So there are clients who go in even for one server, and that's the reason why we have these plans to cater to all kinds of requirements. So for instance, there could be a client who comes up and takes two of the first server, right, load balance. In case one fails, the other one takes over, based on the reliability which is inherent in the infrastructure, the big technical setup that we saw. So yes, there are clients who are running the web servers.
That's great, because very close to making a real server. Okay, thank you. What's your uptime?
Excuse me?
Uptime is up 100%?
The infrastructure is 100% uptime. The infrastructure which houses your virtual servers on which you run your web servers, that is 100%. Because we have identical setups run in the same data center. Now you may have a question, the next logical question, what about the data center, right? So the data center is Tier 3 certified by Uptime Institute, which implies an availability factor of 99.26. So that's for a maximum unscheduled outage of 4 hours every year. That's the maximum. It doesn't imply that it has to be, but that's the maximum. So that's certified. The data center, and that's the reason. We had 9 data centers in UAE, but most of this setup in a general data center which is Tier 3 certified.
Okay, great. With a question here?
My name is Sami. I'm IT manager for Ipsos Emirates. Actually, we are all the customer for Etisalat data center. We are hosting our servers with you since 2003. It was actually pretty hard to reach you to get the information about cloud service. Just today I received the quotation for cloud service from Abdullah Mazrouri. Dubai. Yeah. Anyway, so we got the quotation for silver cloud server to the second one. So my question is, what's the difference between Etisalat, cloud service, and other services like Rackspace, Amazon, or what's the what differentiates you?
What's your differentiator? Good question.
They all operate in the same space. So infrastructure as a service is an industry service, and you will always have a number of people operating. Amazon Web Service has a 50% market share for infrastructure as a service globally. So we have one operator and the same Amazon retail guy. So it's one operator having 50% market share. Rackspace is the second largest infrastructure as a service provider globally. Now all these guys host in their data centers across the globe. So one, the biggest differentiator, as far as the service is concerned, it is more or less the same service, because we have modeled based on these top two leaders. One, price-wise, there's no apple-to-apple comparison, but we made sure there's no point comparing with Amazon, but we did compare with Rackspace. So price-wise also, we are very extremely competitive. The differentiator, if you ask me, is that the data and your applications reside in Gemini data center. In case of any queries whatsoever, you can write it out there. It's a 24/7 operation being monitored 24/7. If you're hosting in any of these global infrastructure and service providers, you don't know where your data is. These guys have got multiple data centers across the globe. So where your data flows is immaterial. They don't tell you. But here, you have an advantage. So if you ask me, yes, it's model based on their service, it's model based on global standards, but it's right.
Okay, so your data sleeps nearby. You know, just a stone's throw away, as they say. Just before we go on to the next question, I just want to get my head around this, make sure that my own assimilation of your presentation is correct. So if I'm a small to medium-sized enterprise, I don't have to use any of my piggy bank to go out and buy any of those computers and servers and all that other stuff. You will actually provide that infrastructure for me through this program, and I can choose a package that fits my budget based on the growth level that I have now and the one that I will project for the future. Yes, is that right?
You're already an expert, that's why I said.
Okay,
absolutely true. You only need to have your end devices, the laptops, through which you access your.
Okay, sorry, so make sure you have that.
Of course.
You have to have that anyway, right? So then, of course, because a lot of this other infrastructure becomes obsolete if you're going out to acquire it. So you make a capital investment, and after two and a half years, somebody's already generated 4th generation stuff, and you bought the 1st generation model. So you're kind of really downside if you're going out and making this capex in the beginning of your business, or even nurturing in your 3rd year. Okay, our next question. Go ahead.
Hello, hi. My name is Muhammad. I'm Ed. I had a very couple of questions. I can go back to the slide where you have done the calculation where you are saving 60%.
Are you an accountant?
Are you using these kind of calculations for most of my customers?
Okay. Well, this is sell the sizzle, not the steak.
No, I'm going to ask you.
Okay, fair enough.
First of all, the oldest licenses are they included when we are going ahead and getting new services for the server? Does the customer save in the OS license? Does he have to pay for the Windows license as well?
No, that's the way. It's not mentioned in service plans, the earlier slide, but IP address, Windows Server license or Linux is included in the virtual machines. So when you subscribe to a server, you get a full working server on which you load your application. In addition to this was just a snapshot of the services, a whole portfolio of services. All services which are required by enterprises, load balancers, firewalls, everything. So you get VLANs, you get IP addresses by default.
The next very small question is again, the configuration is done by the Etisalat people, or do I have to ask my ID or myself, do I have to hire another company to configure it for me, like a exchange server? I have to ask someone to configure it on your servers.
So one, you can take the exchange license. Again, you don't have to procure exchange license for a 3-year period or a 1-year period or a lock-in, etc., and then go for support renewal with Microsoft. You pay for the exchange licenses every month, monthly, no upfront again. And in addition to that, you have an option of going in for managed services. So if you go for managed services at a delta additional value, right, we manage the exchange based on your requirements. So our IT team, which is monitoring this 24/7, is in touch with your IT team and manages your exchange for you. Yes, that's an option.
And then the internet usage is all free, as much as because some people they go to get a server and they can host a website and they can be 10,000 people using the website and they can be lots of internet usage. So is that unlimited for these services?
It can be unlimited, let's be honest, but with each virtual machine, as you go up the stack on the virtual machine configs, the data transfer bandwidth keeps on increasing. So it varies from 25 GB to 100 GB, and you always have an option of buying additional data transfer at, again, delta incremental cost. Yes?
And the very last one, that's
sure.
a very practical question to our technical ones. The practical question that a friend of mine is facing the same problem right now, that he doesn't have internet at all in data, and he do not have a reliable internet connection over there. So what are you doing in terms of providing good internet connectivity to the existing SME business so that they can go for the cloud?
So what you are referring to is not, just to understand better, is not about infrastructure as a service, but it's about internet connectivity at his office, right? So this becomes a pure play telecom service. So I'm sure we have teams, we have account managers. The best would be...
But if he has this kind of internet connectivity that is reliable and is of high speed and of fiber optic, he would definitely go to cloud. But he cannot take it. He would like to have it, but he cannot unless he gets good reliable internet connection. So if you have something new upcoming for these kind of areas where there is no internet available, that would be very useful.
On the telecom side, there are always enhancements and improvements happening. It's just that I'm not on the telco side of things. But yes, what we do understand and we do know is there are always enhancements. Having said that, there are plans to take, cloud is always evolving. The shape of infrastructure as a service that Amazon has today, Rackspace has today, and what we have today is not the shape which is going to be 1 year down the line. So we already have the roadmap to take the service to the next level, where we offer end-to-end SLAs. So telecom, data center, which is already certified, and this, which already is replicated. So yes, there are plans to take it to the next level. Yes.
Well, that was a thundercloud. Well said. Thank you very much, Defenders, for your